Leon Charney Report. And now, here is your host, Leon Charney.
Welcome to another Leon Charney Report, and it's a jam-packed show today. One first deputy mayor of New York City, and the second, the former mayor of Tel Aviv, Shlomo Lahat, is in town, and he'll tell us what's going on in Israel. We got Randy Mastro here who's going to tell us what's going on in New York, and it is blazing. It is on fire. No one has seen New York like this, and I guess we got to give credit to Rudy Giuliani, right?
Absolutely.
Randy, if you talk about anything in New York City, everybody's excited. Talk about civility to people, everybody, I don't know if they like jaywalking and all that, we'll talk about that. Talk about real estate prices going up, homeless are off the street, Times Square is ablaze, everybody wants to go, it's maybe the Disneyland of the world. How'd you do it?
It was done with a lot of hard work and a lot of leadership by Rudy Giuliani, who has been an incredible mayor for the city. You talk about New York City of the past and the New York City of today. And it's really a tale of two cities. We used to be the crime capital of the world. Now we are the safest large city in America. Times Square used to be the smut capital of the world. Now it's a family entertainment mecca.
It's not only that, it's considered one of the prime real estate spaces in the world today. I don't know if you saw the
Absolutely.
Out of
it's incredible.
10, I think you're talking about Champs-Élysées, you're talking about what's the place in California, you're talking about Times Square, and is nearly as big as Fifth Avenue. And, I know that area pretty well, and what it looked like 10 years ago.
And what it will look like over the next few years, because you see the development continuing. You see us winning our battle against the sex shops. So soon we will be able to close down even the remaining sex shops that are there and get them out of that neighborhood. So the fact of the matter is that it took leadership, it took guts, it took courage. It took Rudy Giuliani to take on the crime issue, and we've had historic reductions in the crime rate. A Rudy Giuliani to take on organized crime at the Fulton Fish Market, private karting industry, San Gennaro Festival, and win. Took a Rudy Giuliani to turn around our local economy. Welfare reform that put people back to work, and jobs growing in the private sector at a historic rate in this city. A lot of history has been made under Rudy Giuliani. That's why we are now the envy of the world again.
Is it true that Rudy is out in Wyoming at the Republican Party trying to see if he's a national candidate?
Well, if the question, Leon, is does Rudy Giuliani play in Peoria? He plays in Peoria, and he plays in Michigan, where he went last week and was incredibly well received. The Michigan Republican Party had its most successful fundraiser ever with Rudy Giuliani as the guest speaker.
Did you go? Were you there?
I didn't, because I get the joy of acting on his behalf when he goes out of town. So those are the glory hours for me, Leon.
I saw Randy at a Knicks basketball game with a bodyguard, and he was taking over Rudy Giuliani, who had been on vacation. Correct?
Well, the mayor is rarely out of town, but those few hours when he is, I'm here.
Can you sign documents?
I'm authorized to sign a lot of city obligations and contracts on behalf of the mayor when he's here or when he's out of town. But of course, Rudy Giuliani is a very hands-on mayor, so he's always in contact, even those few hours that he's out of town.
All right, give us the hypothetical, though. Not talking about Rudy or anybody, but the first deputy mayor, really, God forbid, if something ever happened to a mayor, does the council speaker come in or the first deputy mayor?
No, what happens is, and the official designation is deputy mayor for operations. I am authorized to act on the mayor's behalf for a period of up to 9 days if he would be out of town. If the mayor were out of town or incapacitated for a longer period than that, it's actually the public advocate who would take over the duties of mayor.
He wouldn't complain.
Mark Green wouldn't complain. I think you would have a lot of voters who would complain, but not
Rudy was
Mark
on
Green.
The show a couple of months ago, a year ago maybe. He said, we're talking about Mark Green. He said he was looking at the chair in my office every time he comes visit me. So maybe he's getting used to it. But that's very powerful. So you're an appointed official.
Yes.
Well, that's true also with the Secretary of State in the United States government. There's a line of descent also. So you could be technically a mayor for 9 days. Would your mom be happy?
She'd be so proud.
How did you meet Rudy?
I met Rudy in 1984. He hired me to become an assistant U.S. attorney. At the time, I was an associate at the law firm of Cravath, Swain and Moore. We were about
Jewish firm.
We were about to go to trial on a case called Westmoreland versus CBS that you may remember.
Oh, yeah.
General Westmoreland
the
sued
Vietnam,
for a libel over a CBS documentary called The Uncounted
You were
Enemy.
plaintiff or defendant?
We were defending CBS. I was part of the trial team that David Boies headed. Rudy Giuliani hired me to come to the U.S. Attorney's Office. I got his permission to stay for the trial, so I got to be part of really a terrific trial that made a little history. It was about history. It was about the Vietnam War experience. And then as soon as that trial was over, I went to the U.S. Attorney's Office and have known the mayor ever since.
Was that libel? The trial
It was
for libel?
it was a libel trial.
You made law on that, didn't you?
It was a fascinating case, and there were many novel legal issues, but also you were talking about a piece of American history. And in some ways we were trying aspects of the Vietnam War.
Right.
And it was about the size of the enemy we faced in Vietnam, but also about a failure of American policy.
Right.
And the fact of the matter is that it was a terrific experience, and for a young lawyer to be a part of that trial, it was great for me.
Where'd you go to law school?
I went to Yale and the University of Pennsylvania Law School.
You couldn't pick something that wasn't Ivy League so we could give you a real Horatio build up here?
Sorry.
So you went to U of P Law School?
Yes.
A. Leo Levin was that there?
Absolutely right. Good for you.
See, I remember those names.
Terrific.
Great law school.
It's a terrific place.
Okay, many people who watch this show are not lawyers, but everybody's fascinated by lawyers today. So contrast for me working in a private law firm where you were at Cravath and for the U.S. Attorney. What's the difference? I mean, I know it's a tremendous difference, first of all, in money.
Sure.
But you had an exciting case on Westmoreland.
Sure. Cravath was one of the oldest white shoe law firms. It
How
had
many yarmulkes there?
It had tremendous blue chip clients like CBS at the time and Time Warner. At the same time we were doing the Westmoreland trial on the third floor in that courthouse. On the first floor, other Cravath lawyers were defending Time against General Sharon in the Sharon libel case.
Right.
So it just had a terrific practice, but it was a different kind of experience because as a young lawyer, you're not doing a lot of trials. I was the exception to be part of a trial team and to be able at that young age to do several witnesses at a trial. The U.S. Attorney's Office, you have the opportunity as a young lawyer to really to develop your skills as a trial lawyer. And you go there not only wearing the white hat of public service, but also getting a great trial experience. And there is no finer government litigating office than the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York. Some of the best and the brightest who've been trial lawyers in this city came out of the Southern District of New York. So for me, that was a real privilege. And I got to do great cases there. I became a specialist in racketeering cases against organized crime. And we developed models to clean up businesses or unions that organized crime had corrupted. So I was the lead prosecutor on the government's civil RICO action against the International Brotherhood of Teamsters that forced that union to have democratic elections. They've since screwed them up, unfortunately, but it was a hard-fought and tremendous victory for union democracy. Those members, those nearly 2 million members at the time, never had the chance to vote directly for the president of that international union. And organized crime literally controlled president after president after president. We broke up that system. We required democratic rank-and-file secret ballot elections. And we kicked out of that union many of the most corrupt parties from inside and outside the union that had caused it to have a legacy of shame. So I was a very proud moment there, too. And that was Rudy Giuliani having the guts to bring such a case, and I being fortunate enough to be able to be the lead prosecutor on that case.
All right, but how did he find you? I mean, he go to Cravath and say, I want the brightest litigator?
He didn't have to find me. He was already enjoying a reputation as a premier prosecutor in this country. And people like me, young lawyers who wanted to be trial lawyers and enjoyed the courtroom, We're drawn to the Southern District of New York.
So you
We
applied?
apply. Oh, absolutely.
You applied, and
We
then you
apply. It's a
interviewed
very
them.
prestigious position, and many more people interested in going there than can possibly ever be accommodated. A very selective office.
Is that right? All right, we're going to come back, and this is a one-on-one with Randy Mastro, who's a fantastically interesting guy. He's the first deputy mayor of New York. Could be your mayor for 9 days if Rudy decides to go to Italy and visit his ancestors and stays there for a while, which I doubt. And but he's an interesting man. We really want to know what makes him tick as well as how come the city's ticking. So stay with us. You could throw it at him if you want. We're back. We're speaking to Randy Mastro, who's the first deputy mayor of New York. And as I said before, it's a great position to be in because, in a sense, you expedite the feelings and the sentiments of what the mayor wants to do because he's running around. He's all over the place. He's got to be at St. Patty's Day Parade. He's ceremonial, he's everything, and these are the guys who really execute what he wants. I think that's a correct statement. And then there are a lot of other people who do it, right?
Well, I work for the hardest working man I've ever known, and that means that I do everything I can to keep up with him. So I'm tired a lot, but his energy level is incredible, Leon.
He's driven. What drives Rudy Giuliani?
This is a man who has a passion about this city. He loves being mayor of New York City. So when we joked before about, he'll be out of town for a few hours, literally that's the case because he loves to be here and he loves this job. For him, he grew up in New York. He is a person who's a diehard Yankee fan. This is just a job he loves. And when he was in Washington in the Justice Department, third highest ranking position in the Justice Department, he chose did a much better job than Webb Hubbell, fortunately. He chose to give up that high-ranking position to come back to New York City to be the U.S. Attorney because this was his home, this was his love, this is where he wanted to be. And, of course, he made history there as the crusading U.S. Attorney who helped go after public corruption, organized crime, financial crimes. He really made history.
You know why I like you, Randy? Not because you and I argued in the courts together, by the way, on the New York Post case, but you're loyal to your man, which I am to my guy who's a Weitzman. I'm very loyal.
Sure.
I get so irritated listening to George Stephanopoulos on television being disloyal to his former commander. This girl, Dee Myers, Leon Panetta, it really upsets me from the point of view of loyalty. If you can't be loyal to your guy, you should recuse yourself and take a vacation. But you don't become anti. And that's a terrible thing for me and for you who've served these people who are, that's all they depend upon.
Well, Leon, you've been in and out of public service. You know, you've answered the call. You were involved in Camp David.
Right.
So you know what that means and the impact in improving really people's lives that you can do in public service that you can't do anywhere else. So that's a really high calling, and to be able to serve a man like Rudy Giuliani, he's just an amazing person.
It's not only that, it's a privilege. And you and I have been in privileged conversations with very, very strong people in this world, prime ministers, presidents, mayors. That privilege you don't abuse. You don't abuse it. If you want to write a book about Rudy Giuliani, you ask him tomorrow if you could write the book. You get his permission. Unless it's 5-10 years from now and it's historical. When I did my book called Spy for Peace, I let Azer Weitzman, who's an integral part of it, read the book. And I said, if you don't want it to go out, we won't put it out. I think this is an important book. He says, no, I want to read it and I'll put it out. You don't become a broadcaster on ABC and knock your boss down and say in 2 weeks, George Stephanopoulos tell you he'll be resigning within 2 weeks, seconded by George Will. To me, it's not fair play. And he may be that Clinton may be out, and I'm not defending Clinton. I'm talking about the loyalty between a public personality and someone that you're privileged to serve. That's my feeling, and I think you have the same feeling.
I do.
See, and a Jew and Italian, we get together and we have a pizza and a piece of gefilte fish and it all works. It's not so bad. Randy, you live in this world. You saw a guy named Ken Starr, independent prosecutor. First of all, you believe in that law?
Absolutely. I was part of an independent counsel investigation. I helped former Judge Arlen Adams at the outset of his investigation of the HUD scandals.
HUD.
He was investigating former HUD Secretary Samuel Pierce, and I helped him get that investigation started. So I do believe in the independent counsel law.
Does it have enough check and balance today?
Well, I think, unfortunately, what you are seeing, but this isn't a historical aberration. It is a complaint that has been made in the past. It was a complaint that was made against Lawrence Walsh when he conducted his investigation of a Republican administration. You see that when you have really a prosecutor, they call them independent counsel, but they're really prosecutors, with just one assignment and literally unlimited resources, you see circumstances that seem to mushroom out of all sense of proportion. That's the issue that arises in these cases. But do I think that there is a legitimate reason for having independent counsel? I personally do. But I think that there are cases, extremes, not most of the independent counsel investigations, but there are extremes where they seem to grow to proportions beyond that which seems reasonable.
All right, let's talk for a minute about Ken Starr. You were a prosecutor. Is there any circumstance, absent extraordinary circumstance, where you would call a mother to testify against a daughter?
Well, it would have to be an extraordinary circumstance, but we're not in a position, not knowing what he knows privately in the secrecy and confidences of his grand jury investigation, whether this is such an extraordinary circumstance or not. He's made that call. Ken Starr is a very respected lawyer, former federal judge. He is an extraordinarily bright person, and therefore it's not easy for us, unless we're going to shoot from the hip, to say, well, I would never have done that, because we can't know the circumstances of his investigation that are private. But it certainly is a move that raised a lot of eyebrows.
And also, when you're up against the President of the United States, you have to use what we call in French seichel, which is common sense. And I talk to White House reporters all day. They call me because we move with them a lot. We talk to them. This guy's public relations is really receding. They may say as a prosecutor he doesn't need it, but in a case against the President of the United States, his findings will go to the Judiciary Committee in the House. Congress people will have to vote according to public sentiment. That's what impeachment is about. We've only had two in this country, Andrew Johnson, and he's sustained it by one vote in the Senate. Remember
That's
that?
right.
And Mr. Nixon.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in the Senate working for Vance Hartke at that time in the Senate. And so he just took off and resigned.
Never came to the Senate vote. Only the House committee voted for
Liz
impeachment.
Holtzman was on this show, who was part of that.
She was on the Judiciary Committee, the House Judiciary Committee.
Yeah, and she said that there is no comparison. High crimes and misdemeanors, we're trying to define that. She said that high crimes and misdemeanors meant abuse of power as a president and really didn't relate to the personal aspects of the presidency. She said that Nixon would have not been impeached except for the fact that he knocked out Archibald Cox on one Saturday night. And that was the worst offense that they thought happened, which is interesting. Isn't it?
Well, it's an interesting analysis, but I'm not sure I agree with that analysis. Yeah. But the fact of the matter is that there are certain parallels that occur. So often, what is the undoing in a situation like this is not the underlying allegation that led to such an investigation, here the Whitewater incident, but rather subsequent attempts to cover up. Yeah. It's called obstruction of justice. It's called perjury or supporting perjury. And that's really what the twist that this investigation has taken. And really on what could only be said are tangential issues, if they could even be described as that.
All right, so explain to me, you're a brilliant man and an Ivy League man all the way. How come every time the president gets sort of nipped by one of these accusations, his polls go up? What's it telling you? Well,
I think it says a lot about the public's view of the presidency, and I think it says a lot about the public's view of the press. Bill Clinton is a very effective communicator. Our most popular presidents have been effective communicators, and even under press assault, those effective communicators going directly to the people have often turned the tables on a negative press. And I think the public's reaction is that there's been an unfairness to Clinton at this point. That the press seized on something that seemed minor and personal in nature, and that the president put on a spirited defense largely on the merits of his presidency and gave a bravura performance in his State of the Union message.
Right.
And I think that he has sustained that. That doesn't mean that over time, if some of these allegations prove to be true, and there are more damning disclosures that occur, and if the public loses confidence that the president told the truth, there won't be a negative fallout for him over time. I think if you go back to Watergate days, it was an erosion over a long period of time for Richard Nixon. He was at a very high point in his presidency when allegations were first made. Indeed, those allegations went back to the 1972 campaign. We already had dirty tricks being alleged in that campaign, and Nixon beat McGovern by one of the largest margins in our nation's history. But over time, as some of those allegations proved to be true, and there were more damning disclosures about the Nixon presidency, his popularity slid. So the question will be what comes out of this. These are allegations different in nature. I think the public is reacting in part to a backlash on, aren't we getting into too much personal detail about the private life of a president? So we're learning a lot about what the public thinks about the presidency, what it cares about, and what it doesn't care about. And I think that's being reflected in the polls right now. But if their president lied to them, and that's shown on a number of fronts over time, that ultimately could lead to an erosion in public support.
All right, you heard it from Randy. Mastro will be back in a minute. I think it has to do with that, and I think it has to do with the economy. We'll talk about that in 1 minute, because New York City's helping the economy. It's blazing again, as I told you before. We'll be back. We're back. We're talking one-on-one with Randy Mastro. We're talking about a lot of happenings in the United States and the world, because he's an expert on all, but most of all, he's first deputy mayor of the city of New York. He works very hard for a man called Rudy Giuliani, and they have been exceptionally successful. My 2 cents on the Clinton affair now, the Lewinsky affair, whatever it is that a man is innocent until proven guilty. Let's give him the chance. I don't think he has to talk to the press and Sam Donaldson every hour about this thing. I think he should run the country, and world affairs are important. If Starr can develop enough to indict him, you don't indict presidents, so you bring the impeachment, let it happen. But you're right, there is I'm telling you, I talk to these press people in Washington. They want to grab him, they want to nab him, they want to control what happens, and the public is being so it's like a jury, you know.
Mm-hmm.
They're being very sincere and credible and giving everybody the benefit of the doubt, especially if they are presidents of the United States. So it's a fascinating time that we're living through. Mm-hmm. And lo and behold, who would ever believe that? And you're right, you know, Bush was, poll ratings after Kuwait were about 90% favorable. No one thought he could be beaten, nobody. And so polls are very fickle. On the other hand, as you said, and I said, well, we were during time out here, the public, basically people are well off in America today. We don't have a war. The economy is basically good. Unemployment is its lowest level. Inflation is under control. You haven't seen things like this. You have to go back into the books, maybe to the 50s, to find an era like this. So why would anybody want to throw this guy out? Now, Ed Koch, your best friend, was on the show, and he told me that even if Clinton lied about this stuff because he wanted to protect his family, et cetera, he didn't believe the president would ever be impeached. Would you agree with that?
Well, I think it's premature to speculate about that, and our obsession with that topic is probably unfair to Bill Clinton and unfair to the presidency. I think that you hit on something very important, though, Leon. We are better off today. I know that's the case right here in New York City. And you do have to go back to the 60s and the 50s to find a time when we have had crime this low, this few murders in our city, when you've had this kind of private sector job growth. You've never had more tax cutting at any point in city history. You've never had cleaner parks and streets than at any point in the history of city ratings. You haven't had the welfare rolls this low in 30 years. We're finally below the 800,000 mark again. You've got to go back to when John Lindsay was mayor for that. Civilian fire fatalities, our fire department saving lives, they haven't been this low since 1959. So we're making a lot of history here. And yeah, our quality of life has improved dramatically over the last 4 years. And I think that's something that we can all feel very good about here in New York City.
What is your feeling, not the mayor's, what is your feeling about what Rudy Giuliani, this great public servant, should do on his next run?
Well, I believe that Rudy Giuliani can do just about anything he sets his mind to. He's a man of extraordinary talent and ability and charisma. Nobody thought New York City could be turned around this way in 4 years, and they've been calling it in the national and international press a miracle. Well, it is a miracle, and it's a miracle that Rudy Giuliani brought about. But he's got a very good philosophy about it. His philosophy is if you do well in what you're doing, the future will take care of itself. So I believe that he will have a bright future in whatever he chooses to do. I believe that he will continue to serve in public office because I think he's a great public servant and loves being a public servant. So I'm sure there will be many great things in Rudy Giuliani's future. That's up to him to sort out which one he'll pursue. But for him, I think he can do just about anything he sets his mind to.
Would you like to see him President of the United States?
I think he would be a terrific president. I think he would be terrific in any national or statewide office that he chose to pursue. He's a man of immense talent. He's a great administrator. He's a great leader. He's got courage unlike anyone I've ever seen in my life, and he's got that creativity and charisma that cause great changes for the better. It's just would be a terrific thing to see Rudy Giuliani in higher office.
I think he's a great administrator. Would it not be a waste of his talents to put him in a legislative type of position? I mean, he has to decide. This is just speculation between you and me. But the guy is a great administrator. There's a big difference between being a great legislator and a great administrator. And I think it's a much stronger talent to be an administrator. It's much tougher.
Well, I agree with you that he's a great administrator. And in executive positions, as mayor of New York City, he has done remarkable things because of his effectiveness, his tireless work ethic, his creativity, and his courage to do new things. Do I think that he could be effective in either role? Of course I think he could be effective in either role, because part of being an effective executive is working with legislative bodies to achieve your legislative agenda. So Rudy Giuliani is the total package.
Yeah.
He's done it all.
Is it hard for you to get talented people to work at a high level in a city today because of all the problems of disclosure, et cetera, that goes on?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily describe it as because of the problems of disclosure, although there are instances where I know of individuals who didn't want to subject themselves to that kind of scrutiny, even though they were very honorable, decent people.
Right.
I think that it is, in public service, it is difficult to attract some people because of financial considerations. It was not easy to give up.
What is your pay as a deputy mayor?
My pay right now is $142,000 a year, and that's only because Rudy Giuliani had the courage to say what I just said, that it's hard to attract good people at government salaries, so therefore he had the guts to say, I will raise managers' salaries. I'm asking them to do more with less. I won't cause the city to spend more because we will downsize the total management staff, but I'm going to pay good people more to attract them to city government and to keep them in city government. So my pay actually went up from a considerable amount. It went up from $112,000 to $142,000.
Yeah, but it's a great sacrifice. I mean, you're in private practice, you could be doing who knows what, you know?
Well, it's definitely the case, Leon, that I and several others who went to join the mayor out of personal loyalty and a sense that we wanted to help him achieve this mission. We left lucrative private law practices. I was a partner in a national firm, Gibson, Dunn & Crutcher, and obviously made a lot more money in private law practice, as did several of my colleagues who entered city government. But it wasn't about the money. You know you're going to make a financial sacrifice, just as you've done in your life in going to public service.
Quote on that. I was buying a building from Harry Helmsley one day, and it was just right after post-Camp David period for me. And he said to me, Leon, in real estate, if you stayed in this business in the mid-'70s, he said you'd probably made $30 million. He says, you know what? I'd have paid $100 million to have the thrill that you had.
There you go.
And the senior partner of a major law firm, I'm not going to mention his name, in New York City, one of the biggest, came to see me, the ace. He said to me, how do I get involved in doing what you did in public service? I said, well, read my book. You'll follow the text. We'll be back in 1 minute to continue with Randy Mastro. I have a lot of fun with him, and he comes from the heart. That's what we like on this show. We're back. We're talking with Randy Mastro, who we told you can be deputy mayor mayor of New York City for 9 days. If we get Rudy Giuliani to visit Israel, because Shlomo Lahat just came in. He's the former mayor of Tel Aviv, and he is very friendly with Rudy Giuliani and Ed Koch, and he's got mayors in Russia. He knows them all. There's Shlomo Lahat, very famous man. During the Scud, he's looking for Scuds now. He became so famous with Scuds,
Nice to see you.
Randy, what are the big issues facing? One thing I got to tell you that impresses me very much about Rudy, he's a lame duck right now. He's not looking for re-election here. He's working as hard as ever. You can feel the tempo. He's got his agenda. He didn't slough off. He didn't back off. He's fighting. He's jumping. He's bumping. That energy is unbelievable.
Sure.
What's his agenda now? No more jaywalking?
Sure.
No more 30 miles an hour?
No, let me tell you about his agenda. Because, of course, we've already talked about the achievements we made during the first 4 years in reducing crime, reducing the welfare rolls, bringing back the local economy. Of course, we want to preserve those gains and do everything we can to gain even more. But he's made a commitment to the people of New York City, and now he's implementing programs to effectuate that commitment. He pledged, when he ran for re-election, that he would do everything that we possibly could as a city government to eliminate drugs in this city as much as we possibly can. And we are now implementing programs, including special police initiatives, where we go into high concentration drug areas with extra police presence to try and get drugs out of those neighborhoods, special programs in the schools, including greatly expanding the Beacon School program for our kids and a Safe Schools Corridor program where kids are escorted to and from school so they'll be free from drug dealing near those schools. Extra treatment where we say to those on drugs, you get off drugs. The treatment is available to you, but you've got to get off and stay off. And we're implementing those programs now, and I think you're going to see over the course of these next 4 years some history made here, too.
Really?
Because this mayor has the credibility to make that kind of commitment and to deliver on it. He delivered on his commitment to do everything he could to reduce crime in this city during his first 4 years, and we in fact arrested more drug dealers than we've ever arrested in city history last year. But what we're going to do is we're going to intensify that effort. More cops, more programs to keep our kids off drugs, more treatment programs to get people off drugs. And we are going to leave a better city for our kids because we will do everything we can to substantially reduce drugs in the city. And that's a message that resonates everywhere in this country. There's hardly anyone in this country who hasn't seen the effects of drugs hurt the lives of someone they know and love. We're going to do everything we can in this city to change that, to eliminate drugs as much as we possibly can. That's the highest priority of the Giuliani administration in the second term. Now, there are other issues, but that is our highest priority.
So that's his first priority.
And I should add...
How about taxes? Does he want to do much on taxes?
Oh, absolutely. We've already made history by being the biggest tax-cutting administration in city history. We've already cut more than $1 billion cumulatively in taxes. And if our complete tax package is enacted by the City Council and the state legislature in this upcoming budget, we will have achieved on an annual basis with all of those tax cuts, $1.8 billion in tax relief every year. And let me give you a little feel for where some of those tax cuts are. We want to eliminate the sales tax on clothing entirely. Right. We've already seen the success of eliminating it on clothing purchases $100 and less.
My assistant here said it'll stay in New York City if you do that.
It would be great. And we saw retail sales grow 70-80% on those tax-free weeks. Right. So bring our retail business back, stimulate the economy, and give people a break on their clothing purchases. And that helps poorer New Yorkers the most. They're the ones hit hardest by that kind of regressive tax. It's a flat tax across the board for every clothing purchase. That takes more out of the pocket on a percentage basis of poorer New Yorkers, working class families who need that extra money for their families. So that's one of the things that this mayor is trying to achieve. 2 years ago, nobody thought we could achieve any sales tax relief. Now we've eliminated it on $100 and below clothing purchases. Now we're aiming to eliminate it entirely. That's number one. Number two, we've gotten tax relief for unincorporated businesses. They're in effect double taxed.
Right, they are.
And now we're going to try and do the same thing for subchapter S corporations. We've gotten co-op and condo tax relief, but that relief is due to run out by the year 2000. We want to extend that relief because here, Leon, there's a disparity in the tax structure between real estate property taxes for homeowners and co-op and condo owners. So we need to extend that so there's more equity. We have achieved, working with the governor, a fair share of state tax relief, not only on real estate taxes, but personal income tax relief, and we'll be achieving...
It's gratifying.
There you go, see? We will be achieving over $470 million just in personal income tax relief from that state program that New Yorkers, New York City residents will get.
You're working as hard as ever. Randy, what time do you get up in the morning?
I get up every morning around 6.
What time do you get to City Hall?
I have to be at City Hall between 7:30 and 8 every morning because we have a senior staff meeting with the mayor every morning at 8.
And what time do you finish?
Well, my day goes pretty long.
Don't count the Knicks games.
I won't count the Knicks game, although I'm going to the Knicks tonight.
Sorry.
Go New York, go. Most nights I will be home 9, 10 o'clock. Wow. Some nights later than that, some nights a little earlier. I have a 2-year-old daughter, so I try and get home sometimes early. But most nights, even after I leave City Hall, I'm going out to different events, speaking engagements. The mayor can't be everywhere, so I will often go out and speak to groups on his behalf.
Well, usually we have him here, but it's more fun to have you.
You're too kind, Leo.
Are you Republican, registered Republican?
No, actually, I'm a registered Democrat.
Really?
Yes, it's a fusion government, Leo.
All right, so give me a guess. Who's going to be governor of New York? Who's going to win? He's apolitical. He doesn't like to make these judgments. I got him on a hot seat.
He does this. In fairness, I believe that Governor Pataki will be reelected. He has a strong record, and I believe that he will be reelected. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to make that prediction, Leon. No. He's way ahead in the polls.
How about Al D'Amato?
Well, right now I think he's running very strong.
Right. Are the mayor and D'Amato getting along?
Absolutely, and the mayor has endorsed the governor and the senator.
Politics creates funny bedfellows. That's all I can say.
Well, the senator this time, at this point in the campaign, compared to where he was 6 years ago, at the same point in the campaign, he's in a much stronger position this time than he was 6 years ago at this same time.
Well, Randy, I'll let you go, but I'll tell you, the senator sitting in this chair swore to me on all the pasta that he can eat in Italy that he would never run again for the Senate. And we replayed the tape for him. He says, people change their minds. What can you do?
That's politics.
Randy, thanks a million for
thank
coming
you.
on.
My
Give
pleasure.
my best to Rudy. Tell me
thank you.
He has to come back here, and we'll drub him out to international. We go international now since we have Chich Lahat on the show. Everybody's going to be watching. Don't leave us. We bring out the ex-mayor of New York. No, he could have been ex-mayor of Tel Aviv, Chich Lahat. We're back. We have the pleasure of reintroducing Shlomo Chich Lahat, the former mayor of Tel Aviv for, I think, 18 or 20 years. 20 years.
Yeah.
Great mayor, created plazas and promenades, and before that, very few people Well, Israelis know, but I'm not sure the Americans know that he was a major war hero and a major general in the Israeli army in a time when things were not so easy, you know?
Yeah, right.
And most people don't talk about your military career, Chich, huh? How's the Israeli army? In good shape today?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah.
We're hearing reports, and, you know, this is hearsay because I haven't been over there in a few months, that tourism is down, business is off in Israel. Is that true, Chich?
Tourism is down, business is, how would we say 50-50? Yeah. That's true, to my sorrow.
Are you still a member of the Likud party?
No, no, no. I do not belong to any party. When I left office, as you know, willingly, I was not defeated by elections. I left 1 year ahead. I announced that I'm going to leave. 20 years is enough. And on May, I left on the 19th of November, 30th of November. And on May, I announced to Mr. Netanyahu, those days, I was not yet Prime Minister, that I quit, I leave the Likud, because as you know, I'm always in favor and a great believer in the peace treaty, and I don't want the Likud to have a kind of a feeling that somebody who doesn't agree to a certain part of the policy is a member of the party. But I do not belong to any party.
Chich, you're a very liberal person, and you live in Tel Aviv, and you ran Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
How does one overcome this factionalism between the very ultra-Orthodox community and the civil liberties of the liberal community?
Yeah.
How do you do that in Israel?
It's a very difficult problem, no doubt about it. I hope, and I am quite certain that we'll come to a certain understanding, which means that everybody should be able to conduct his life in the way that he loves, yeah? I hope that this law of conversion, which I don't want to be rude to say what I think of it, but I hope that it will not be accepted and will not pass because it's ridiculous. We're going to have a crisis with the Jewish word, and there is no need for it. And it's not justified. You cannot justify such a terrible law.
You have a lot of friends in the United States, and a lot of them are not Orthodox Jews, like Reform and Conservative. Are they offended by what's going on in Israel?
This is what I hear. Yeah, absolutely. By the way, what you should know, since you mentioned that, many of them are Reform Jews, I was the first mayor in Israel who allocated and gave free a part of a plot which belonged to the municipality to the Reform movement. They should build a Reform synagogue, which is a great story of success.
They must have your statue in Meir Sharim.
Yeah.
Chich, what brings you to New York?
I came, I'm today a businessman, as you know, Leon, but beside it, I am the chairman of an association which tries to establish and build in Tel Aviv the Yitzhak Rabin Center for Israel Research. And this I try to come to ask people to help us if they would like to, because they think that it's something important.
And what is going to be a research center?
Yeah.
For peace, and I know Kissinger gave a lecture there already.
That's right, a very good lecture, by the way. We planned to have it in a certain hall where we had about 600 seats, and the demand was so great that we had to shift it to the National Theater where we had 850 seats, and 200 people we had to send home because there was not enough space. And what the Rabin Center stands for is it will be divided three parts. There will be a museum which will consist, with the different means, the biography of the late Yitzhak Rabin. It will have an archive where all the documentation since his childhood will be there. Among them, we will have about 200,000 letters written to Leah Rabin after his assassination, primarily by children and young people. And then there will be the School for Advanced Studies, what we call. By the way, the whole institute is being run by Professor Anita Shapira, who is a professor for history, used to be the dean for the Faculty of History in the Tel Aviv University. And there we will bring scholars on an annual basis from Israel, from all over the world, to deal and make research for the most important subjects of the State of Israel.
You knew Rabin from the Palmach days?
No, I was not a member of the Palmach. I knew Rabin since the army. Yeah, we were very close friends.
I know you were. We're going to cut for a break and then come back and ask Chich Lahat, who would know, what the real effect is and was of Yigal Amir's assassination of Yitzhak Rabin. I mean, it's traumatic, but here's a man who can really fill you in. We'll be right back. We're back. We're talking to Shlomo Lahat, the very charismatic former mayor of Tel Aviv and world famous. A lot of friends. He and Teddy Kollek, they became ambassadors to the world by being mayors of very formidable cities, and both of them did great jobs. How's Teddy, by the way?
Teddy is fine.
He's okay?
Yes, absolutely. Great as he was.
Chich, you carry some guilt, you told me, about the fact that you organized a rally for which Yitzhak Rabin came and sang with Shimon Peres, the Song of Peace.
Yeah.
And it's still a trauma to you, huh?
Yes, absolutely. I don't want to take your time, Leon, but you know what happened in our country in 95 when Yitzhak, I mean, he led since 92 the peace process, and he led it marvelously and bravely. And in 95, when people from the other side who disagreed with his policy started to call him traitor, murderer, put his picture with the SS uniform in Jerusalem, something unheard of. And when I realized, I mean, what was going on, I said to Yitzhak, we have to do something against it. By the way, when I left the office of being a mayor, I was elected as the president of the Council for Peace and Security. This is an organization which consists of 1,300 high-ranking officers. Yeah, it's colonels and generals from the Israeli army. We are more than 82% of the retired high-ranking officers from the army. We do not belong to any party, and we are great supporters of the peace treaty and process. We demonstrated in favor of the Oslo A and Oslo B, etc. Anyhow,
you have such a career, a military career. No one can even accuse you of anything other than good faith. But what do you tell these people? Can you trust the Arabs? What do you say to them?
What means? Of course. Why shouldn't I trust? I think that what we must is to try to get the peace treaty. And I'm sure that we'll be successful. But even if we will not be successful, if it will be a failure, we are not jeopardizing the security of the State of Israel.
That's important.
This is the most important thing. And if 82% of the higher-ranking retired officers from the Israeli army have the same idea, it means something. We are people who served between 25 and 40 years non-stop in the army. We went through 5-6 wars. And we know what wars are. War is something terrible, which do not bring good to anybody, either to the winner, neither to the loser. Yeah. So what will we gain from it? On the other hand, I mean, our military strengths always stem from the fact that we were strong and devoted with the idea that we must have a country in order to continue the existence for eternity of the Jewish people. And if there is a chance that we think that we are able to have peace, we must try it. We cannot hide ourselves under cliches or behind slogans and things of this kind.
There's a movement or buzz out of Israel today that they're looking at 2 plans to withdraw from Lebanon. Is that a good idea?
Yes, yeah. The officers, we are in favor, and we announced it in the papers 2 weeks ago. Yes.
That there's 2 plans, one by Mordechai, the defense minister, and one by Sharon.
Yeah.
Which plan is...
I don't want to go into it. I mean, whatever... Yes, yeah. And say, look, we are out, but be careful. If you will do something to our people, to our soldiers along the border, we are free to treat you the way that you deserve. But out.
Have you ever met Arafat?
Yes. Yeah, by the way, it's interesting. 2 weeks before the assassination of Yitzhak, we had a private discussion at his home on a Saturday, and he suddenly asked me, Chich, did you meet Arafat? I said, no. He said, I beg you, you should, and some of your friends from the Council for Peace and Security, meet him. I said, Yitzhak, is it really important for you? He said, yes, because it's very unusual that generals of your sort, I mean, are people who are so strong, devoted for the peace treaty. And I want him to meet this kind of people. And as a matter of fact, 2 months after the assassination, we arranged a meeting, and I told him we are fulfilling the will of our great leader, the late Yitzhak Rabin. And
I'm going to tell you a story now.
Yeah.
About 9-10 years ago, Ezer Weitzman, your friend who's president of Israel, sent me on a mission to meet Arafat secretly.
Yeah.
And I've told it on the show before, but you'll like the story. And Ezer was very anxious to see if there was any peace possibilities with the Palestinians. I came back, and I didn't go, and without telling Yitzhak Rabin I'm going. Rabin says, hey, it's nothing, forget about him, it's nothing. It's, you can't do business with him. Peres said, keep going. And your old friend Chaim Bar-Lev said, keep going.
Yeah.
I came back and I reported to everybody, and I get to see Rabin. Rabin says, I don't want to hear. He has no control. He has no. 8 years later, he's on a White House lawn, which shows, by the way, it's a positive sign.
Absolutely.
That the man could change his ideas,
Absolutely.
could change his opinion.
Yes.
He wasn't fixated.
Yeah. Yes.
And he was moved to try and move the country towards
Absolutely.
peace. So
Right.
it only confirms what you say.
Yeah. I just wanted to finish what I told you before. And anyhow, and I discussed with Yitzhak for 4 months the possibility to make this rally. I said we must bring people and show them that, there are people in Israel who are in favor of the peace treaty. Not everybody demonstrates and put billboards, etc. And my friend John Friedman, who is, you know him, who is a fellow, a Jew who lives in, 8 months out of the year in Israel and 4 months he spends in Paris, and we decided to make it. He said, I'll provide the money, and I took some friends of mine from the Council for Peace and Security on a voluntary basis. Nobody got 1 penny. We worked 2 weeks to organize this rally. And we wanted only 2 people to come and to speak, Yitzhak Rabin, the late Yitzhak Rabin, and Shimon Peres, because they are the people who took on their shoulders and their responsibility the peace treaty. And 10 days before the rally took place, we had a meeting, Jean and I, with Shimon Peres, and Shimon Peres said, Chich, there is one person who can convince the Prime Minister to come and to speak and participate in this rally. I said, yes, who is it? He said, you. I called immediately, we were in Jerusalem, I called the office of the Prime Minister, he received me immediately, and I came and I asked him. He said, okay, Chich, you know that I'm your soldier, and I see that you are so devoted and so sure. And he, by the way, in the army, since 53, he used to call me the representative of the mob. There was a certain reason for it, yeah. And I told him, Yitzhak, you can trust the representative of the mob. Yes, people will show up. He was afraid that people will not come. He said, by having a rally, and we expect many people, and there will be only a small amount of people, we will lose followers and not gain followers. To cut a long story short, on the day of the rally, it was Saturday evening, as you know, at 10 o'clock in the morning, I was interviewed by the Dutch television at my home. They interviewed me for 30 minutes. The last question was if I take into consideration a possibility of a political assassination.
Really?
Yes. And I said, no, not now.
Wow.
It will happen when because we support the Palestinian state, otherwise we'll not be able to achieve peace. When we will support it, and it will be done, or when we will have, without having an alternative, to take down a settlement. But otherwise, not now. But there will be, like we had, 13 years before the rally, with Emil Greenzweig, when there was,
Heavy duty.
And here came the rally, and Yitzhak came at 8 o'clock, and he didn't believe to his eyes what he saw. He was, so excited to see 200,000 people in the front of the municipality, what was called today, to my sorrow, the Rabin Square. Yeah. And he was overwhelmed. And at the end, he came to me, he hugged me and he kissed. He said, Chich, this was one of the greatest days of my life. And I am happy that you didn't follow my advice, that I followed the advice of the representative of the mob. And 3 minutes later, he was assassinated.
Chich, pleasure to have you. Anytime you're in town, we want you here for your insight and your and intelligence. And we wish you luck in one respect. We don't want you to feel guilty for what you did on the Rabin rally.
But I feel it. I can't get rid of it.
I'll help you.